If you were a local in 1955 and you heard the term coast, you probably didn't think of the ocean. You thought of this morning's guest. Who is he? You'll meet him coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Garden City Furniture on Highway 17 Business in Garden City. We're focused on the publishing industry, and we're visiting with Dean of the Horry County Publishing. How about it, Bill? William E. Darby, otherwise known as Bill. Bill. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for coming in early on a Tuesday.
This is early for me.
It is a very exciting week. We had Bill McCown in yesterday talking about the American Red Cross Heroes campaign, which he's chairing. Of course, tomorrow, Tori Mackey will be with us talking about the Grand Strand Miracle League, and got a tremendous lineup the rest of the week. Larry Amick's going to wrap up the week talking about the Understanding Corporation.
Oh, right.
And Gary Loftus on Thursday talking about the Myrtle Beach tourism. So a lot going on.
Full week.
Yeah, absolutely,
right.
Bill. Publishing industry's in your blood, isn't it?
Well, it's booming on the beach. I mean, you've done a hell of a job with the Herald.
Oh, yeah, a lot of work ahead. I think you were the one who somehow indirectly got me into it, Bill. My love of alternatives and all the great stuff that y'all had done, and I always loved advertising in the paper. And Hilda and the old cruise in the Carolinas thing.
True.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's an interesting profession, to say the least.
Yes. And you've been in it in Horry County more than 5 decades, Bill. Not to date you there, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Well, I did start the magazine business at the beach, and I ran the Horry Herald in Conway for a couple of years for an absentee owner. So, I've always been in it, though. I mean, I started delivering papers when I was 6 years old. And right on through to college, I had a route at college, too. And
Is that right?
Worked on the Tiger at Clemson. I was one of the editors in the sports field, and I also handle all the advertising for the annual, the TAPS.
The TAPS, that was it. I saw that when I visited the Clemson University website and saw a little piece about you. I'm not going to tell folks the year you were graduating.
No, don't go that far back.
But it's
it was a military in those days, so it was.
It was a military college then.
Yeah, I got my degree, and I got my bar as an officer and a gentleman.
As an officer and a gentleman.
Well,
make sure and get that in there. Good.
I should have got the officer, but I'm not so sure about the gentleman part. And then, of course, I went into service 2 years later, and got to be a commanding officer right off the bat. I hadn't figured that one out yet, but it was nice to be a commanding officer.
Wow, Bill, that must have been exciting. Did you originally grow up here in the area?
No, I'm a native South Carolinian, which is a rarity in my own state. No, it's Calhoun County, a little small town. I went to St. Matthew's High School, and Calhoun County is one of the poorest counties in the state. And I went away to school to almost a private school in North Carolina when I was 12.
Right. Is that right? Age 12?
Yeah.
Son of a gun. What prompted
Well, I got kicked out of school. So I had to go to, and my brother he was at Southern Pines Pinehurst, which was, they didn't play football, they played tennis and golf. It was just like a private school. And it was the best thing that ever happened. So I went 3 years to North Carolina. Last year I moved to Raleigh. My brother became a professor at State. And I went to Needham Broughton. The governor was Needham Broughton. My roommate, my classmate was Needham Broughton. The son.
You are kidding.
Yeah.
I did not know that, Bill.
I loved it up there.
You had how many years? Just
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, that's the best thing, because South Carolina schools, they're not quite as bad as they are today, but they were pretty bad in those days. But North Carolina really, they had better teachers, they had better curricula. It just was a better. Well, you finished in North Carolina.
Sure. But I'm trying to think how those schools were so markedly different, just with that.
Southern Pinehurst was like Myrtle Beach. It's a big resort area, a lot of wealth. I had the best teachers. As I say, we played like golf and tennis and sports like that.
Right.
It was just a great environment. The teachers seemed to be better, the curricula better, and the students were really pushed to the wall. You had to really toe the line. And I hadn't been doing that because I got away with murder in South Carolina school, so it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I don't think I'd ever made college if I hadn't gone to North Carolina.
Is that right?
And of course, then I got the chance to work with my brother because he was at State. I helped set up labs.
He's markedly older than you.
Oh yeah, he was much older than me, and I set up his labs. He was physics and chemistry.
Right.
He was picked as the most popular professor at NC State.
No.
And when you teach physics and chemistry, that's hard to do.
How could he have been?
Because he did experiments. He would show them rather than try to teach them. He'd show them.
Huh.
And he was a great teacher, brilliant. He was a Mensa. He had an IQ. He was a tough taskmaster. You want to try to live with your brother for 3 years? Come on. But it gave me independence. I'll admit that, because he was off teaching and I was, doing my thing.
Is he still living, Bill?
He died just 6 months ago.
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Was he in the Triangle then, or?
No, he'd moved. He'd worked for the government, but he moved to Atlanta, and he was a well-known composer and pianist. He traveled with Johnny Long Band. That'd be before your time, but that was a world. That was a well-known band. Traveled all over the country. He did all their composing and stuff. So he.
I don't think I knew that, Bill. That
he was a brilliant fella. He was so brilliant that it was hard to do much with him. He demanded perfection.
Right.
And I don't think anybody's perfect.
And how a guy could have demanded perfection and still be voted the most popular professor at NC State. I mean, it's tough enough being a college student, but being a perfect college student.
Yeah. Well, he also was a very well-known piano player and composer.
Right.
So he played in bands. He played at Pavilion. He was a principal in Myrtle Beach for 2 years.
Is that right?
And played at Pavilion every night, a honky-tonk piano.
I don't think I knew that, Bill. Was it just the two of y'all? Or do you
No, I have a sister who lives in Savannah. She was in Girl Scouting. She helped. And of course, that's the headquarters of Girl Scouting for the whole nation.
I didn't know that. In Savannah?
Savannah, yeah.
I did not know
that's
that.
Where Ms. Lowe,
they were in Dallas or
That's
somewhere.
where Ms. Lowe started, and so she ran. So she got dignitaries from all over the world that came and visit the birthplace of the Girl Scouts.
Wow.
So I got two really tough siblings that I had to kind of see if I could do as well as they did.
She was younger, or were you the youngest?
I'm the baby.
You're the baby.
Yeah. Baby always gets a little extras, I think, and they picked on me a lot.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah, because they were both older than I was.
Yeah. But y'all all grew up in Calhoun County.
Calhoun County.
You still have family up that way, Bill, or
cousins and stuff? My great grandfather had. He had 20,000 acres. He was high sheriff of Orangeburg County. It wasn't a Calhoun County.
Right.
And they made him a colonel in the Revolutionary War. He was the one that saved Charleston from the Brits. They have a big birthplace with an obelisk made of Vermont marble, about 60 feet tall, saying, "Colonel William Old Danger Thompson, the savior of Charleston."
No.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
He's been up for the Hall of Fame a couple of times, but we hadn't quite got him in yet.
I'm sure you will.
We're working
on it. We'll find a way. That's right.
You're right.
We'll find a way.
Right.
Of course, one of your girls lives not far from there. Isn't that right?
Yeah, she lives in Lee County, Bishopville.
Sure.
She was teaching school, but she got into the buying and refurbishing houses. And
Is that right?
Yeah, she's got a little empire, a little real estate empire, and of all places, that's one of the poorest counties in the state. There's no doubt about that. And my other daughter, of course, she's a big city girl. She lived Copenhagen, London, Paris, and New York. Those are her cities.
Is that right, Bill?
He comes to visit Myrtle Beach, but that's about
right.
it.
Visiting is the extent of it. Yes.
Yeah, she was in the last Sex and the City. And she's been on Law and Order, and she's done a lot in TV land.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew that. She was in, you mean the last one that actually aired?
Yeah, the last one that aired, yeah. People once a month at least, I saw Berger back on TV again. I said, well, it's just a repeat.
Yeah.
She gets a check every month, residuals.
Wow. The handbag folks.
Oh.
Wow. How'd she land that gig?
She worked for Mrs. Astor for a while. She was her private secretary,
No.
the richest woman in America for a whole year.
Wow.
I mean, she worked for De Niro. She's had jobs in New York that you wouldn't believe.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah. Well, she's great to work with stars. I mean, she knows how to handle because she's been on stage.
Sure.
She knows all the vagaries of stage work. So she's had an interesting life. I'll tell you, if I come back, I want to come back as her.
If you come back, that's right. I'm trying to think, who are some of the other people you'd come back as, Bill?
Well, that would be one of my favorite. I think Hearst, I like his techniques.
Yes.
And so that because I've always been in the publishing business.
Sure.
And he was one of the, in fact, one of his vice presidents is supposed to go to work for me next week. He just moved down here.
Really?
Yeah.
That's tremendous.
Yeah.
You snagged some great ones, Bill.
Well, we've won a lot of awards just because I do get some of the better artists. I think we've had 43 awards. We've won Best Newspaper one year, and we won Best Magazine one year. We hadn't figured that one out yet.
Right.
And I hope the press club can get started again. We really need to have a press club here.
A Grand Strand? Or
Well, it actually was very similar to the ad club.
Right.
Took in Florence, took in Wilmington, and we had almost 100 members.
Is that right?
But we worked with the kids. That's what I liked about it. We had a contest for every high school, either their magazine, their newspaper, their radio, whatever they did, and we had a big banquet every year. And so it was great to give us interns too.
Sure.
But at the same time, they got a taste of what it is to be a publisher or whatever. But it died about 10 years ago, and we have got to get that revived.
Do you still have an intern program at Coastal Alternative?
Yeah, we work with interns from all over the country, actually. We try to get at least 2 or 3 every year, and they get credits. We work with the colleges and give them credits and such.
Right.
But, I mean, if we don't do that, we're going to all be in trouble if we don't try to bring up young people.
Oh, yeah, very definitely.
In the print industry is a little tougher time. All I want to be on TV. But print, in fact, we don't hire journalism students. We try to hire English students.
That's good thinking.
I can teach you journalism, but I can't teach you English. So far, I got a new one coming in from Coastal starting next week, in fact.
Well, you'll want to watch on Friday Larry Amick, the co-founder of Understanding Corporation, who's talking about literacy in America.
Great.
And the critical need of course, their products. It's kind of a commercial talk at some level, albeit they were the presenting sponsor of the Art Ball,
I know they were,
as you know, and the ICE Awards for the Chamber of Commerce, and they're surely giving back a lot to the community. We need to do a story on them just to show you how, and their headquarters are here They're
now?
headquartered in Chapel Hill, actually, Bill.
Okay.
They're headquartered in Chapel Hill. But the fascinating thing is that aspect about how, IQ can't necessarily increase, but literacy can increase dramatically.
That's true.
And the ability of, I think, Larry was with us another time, and hopefully he'll talk about it this Friday, but talking about a 15% increase in literacy can double your earnings over the course of a lifetime.
Yeah, we work with the 3 literacy councils, Georgetown, Brunswick, and Horry.
Right.
They send us material, and we've been backing them up because, I mean, that's our bread and butter. If they can't read, we're out of business, Greg, actually.
I love thinking about that, the different the county literacy organizations, which is a great idea.
Sure is.
Bill, what was it exactly? Was it your experiences there at Clemson? And we didn't talk much about that, but of course how you ended up at Clemson. Was it those experiences that got you so embedded and interested in the publishing business?
Well, as I said, I really started delivering papers when I was 6, and then I worked in high school. I was a sports editor of the paper in high school.
Right.
And I always was interested. I did well in English, did well in history. Those are my only 2 courses I do well in. And so I figured when I went to Clemson, I was a history and English major. And I had scholarships to the Citadel, but I wouldn't have lasted 2 weeks. That's the military too, but that's a lot tougher military than Clemson is.
And Clemson was.
Yeah. And being press, I got away with murder because I was always out on assignment. Even though I was supposed to be locked up in your room at 8:30, and I was never in my room. I was always out working on something.
Sure, and you had your press badge.
My press badge, I've been using it ever since. It opened more doors than anything.
I'm sorry we asked you to take it off early this morning, but it's...
well, it's
I don't think I've ever seen you without it.
Yeah, it's my badge because it gets me in places. I mean, people know me, but a lot of people don't, so the badge gets you.
Sure, absolutely.
And they get a lot back by letting us in and do stories for them. Yeah, so I think it's a back scratching situation with businesses as well as just we're doing a big thing on Step Up, the new organization.
Valerie.
Yeah, Valerie's doing one.
She a go-getter?
She is really. I worked with her before in her previous life.
Yeah,
and
a care team.
Yeah.
I know
So
her well.
So we're doing a big special on her starting in April. She asked us.
Good. Well, we want to get her on the show, Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
She's a good speaker.
Since you're with her often, and we've had her on many times for Care Team.
Yeah.
But would love to get her on this.
She'd love to be on sometime between now and the middle of April. You need to get her on because she needs all the publicity she can get.
We will.
For this big, she's got a big fundraiser coming up.
That's tremendous. We will make that happen. And you guys stay so active in different fundraisers, Bill. I know.
Well, you and me together. I mean, between us, I ran last year. I don't know, $80,000 worth of free publicity.
Oh, easily.
And you do too, I'm sure. But I mean, that's part of us giving back to the community too.
Oh yeah.
And you know, we took on the school board. Remember when we thought it was an illegal election. The local board said no, it wasn't. So we took them to the state and sued them in the state election board.
How'd that turn out, Bill?
Well, they had 7 lawyers. We had none, and we won a unanimous decision.
Is that right?
And then they actually sued us in the Supreme Court. Which, it was
Supreme Court, yeah.
It was $645 million, give or take a few million, that we were sort of taking away. But we said if you'd run an honest election, we'd have kept quiet. But that's not honest. And the Supreme Court just last week called me up and said, we're not going to even hear it. That you won unanimously, and that's going to. So they can. What
are they going to do about that?
Well, they can do in 2 years. They can do it again, but they have to wait 2 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
They couldn't do a special election, or
they could. Well, the only way they can go now is up through. They could go to a circuit court and actually sue us. But you're talking 2-3 years. By that time, you just can go and have a new election.
Sure.
So, and we've taken on. We had this boatominium down in Murrells Inlet, where the man was putting up 100,000 square
foot. The guy out of Florence, yeah,
and he was going to move 100 boats back and forth across that little 2-lane road
near Blaine.
So we did a big editorial, put a beautiful picture of Murrells Inlet. I have a place in Murrells Inlet, so I was very concerned.
That's right, you live in Murrells.
And showed the boat and a nice dock and just the marsh, and said let's keep Murrells Inlet pristine. 2 nights later, they had 600 people come sign a petition.
Wow.
And by the weekend, they had 1,000 people sign the petition. And about a week later, the doctor dropped his option. So, and now they're trying to change the law that you can't build huge box in Murrells Inlet. You can build it outside, but not in Murrells Inlet. So we take on things like that. I mean, that's one of the things that, and you do too.
No, not as often as you. And of course, this is a non-commercial show at some level. But those are non-commercial issues you're talking about.
Yeah.
Normally, I wouldn't. We'd want to be talking about the publishing business in general. But of course, you have taken on
we've done that ever since we've been here. Yes, way back when I found an old clipping where the chamber appointed me head of transportation, and Cecil Brandon was my vice president.
Is that right? Back then?
Yeah, that was back in the dark ages when I just moved here. But I was concerned. We got John Rhodes and I, the new mayor, and I. We got the airport moved from Crescent Beach down to the airport.
I don't think I knew that. You got it moved from Crescent Beach to where?
Because it was down to the military. You can imagine the fight we had with the military.
Right.
They said, Bill, we wouldn't mind if we were a transport base, but we're military with guns and stingers, and so we got Ed Young, the first Republican ever elected in the state, I think, and we got Strom, and we got it moved.
Wow.
And it's because it's been there ever since. They told us in 6 years we'd have to move, but Strom said, oh, no. And then when they tried to leave and sell it to us for $150 million, Strom said, oh, no, give it to him. Well, we missed Strom, I'm telling you. He had clout that you couldn't believe.
Yeah.
And so he really... We wouldn't have an airport where it is today without Strom.
I've heard Ed Young tell that story about a number of times being up there. And
you had Ed on the show.
Oh, many times.
He's a great...
we need to get him back down. Of course, he has homes here in Garden City.
Yeah, I know he does.
Down near the little restaurant over here, over on the water. And he tells that story so well about the airport piece with
he saved our grits, because, I mean, North Myrtle Beach Airport now, it's still just outgrown itself in its present state, to tell you the truth.
You mean the Grand Strand Airport?
Yeah, Grand Strand. I mean, in the summer, you can't move up there hardly. So, but, I've always been concerned. As I say, I flew drones in the war. They use them for target practice.
You were a pilot yourself, Bill.
But I was a ground pilot. I mean, because the planes were targets. They're called radio-controlled airplane targets, and they shot them out of the sky. And that's when I worked with Von Braun. He came over here secretly, undercover, and they picked my unit. We had a pretty good unit, and we flew for the first missiles ever shot in America, invented by Von Braun. But we couldn't mention his name because he was here illegally.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he'd worked for the Nazis.
Right.
But it was either us get him or the Russians get him. So we got him. But you couldn't mention his name, and it was exciting.
When were you able to begin mentioning his name, Bill?
Well, after, they said,
Obviously
after some years, I called them and I said, can I mention that I did work with Von? Yeah, I guess everybody knows it now, Bill.
Right.
We finally made him a naturalized citizen after, but it took a while. Because he was, I mean, all those missiles that landed in London, those were Von Braun's.
Wow.
He thought them up. And of course, we had to get that technology, and they had to test it. So they were. I had to fly my plane like 20 miles away because you can't just do it online like we do with anti-aircraft.
Right.
And he knocked one down, and it landed in the University of New Mexico's campus.
No.
And we had a tough time explaining that one, I'll tell you.
God, Bill,
Luckily, nobody got hurt, but they woke up the next morning, and there was this little crumpled plane with a missile half in it.
No way.
Yeah, interesting.
Stuff you'd never forget, Bill.
Well, yeah, and we had to kind of cover that up because it was top secret. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. He was BBR, burned before reading. That's how secret it was. Right.
You know, it's so funny, Bill, when we think about Horry County Publishing, we just got a couple of minutes and time's flying, but obviously starting there with the, was it Field and Stream?
No, actually it was just the Horry Herald. A chain bought the Herald out. The Woodard family had started it, and when old man Woodard died, he loved the publishing business, but his two sons, they loved the printing business, so they said, we're just going to sell it.
Yeah.
So when we took it over, I think it had 1,400 subscribers and took in $15,000 a year.
Wow.
It was pitiful, and we had a hand-fed press. I mean, I felt like I was Gutenberg there for a while, and after I finally built it up in 6 months, I called my publisher, and I said, gee, he said, Bill, you're doing so well, just go out and buy whatever you want. So I went and got me a press and everything.
Right.
And when I left, it was the biggest weekly in the state, and we were doing 6 figures a year.
No.
So I said, if I can do that for him, I should be. So I started my own publishing company.
What year was that, Bill?
55.
55.
Yeah,
So
but I ran the paper for 50 hours. And I ran my magazine for 50 hours.
Wow.
Wasn't much sleeping in there at that time.
No.
But it seemed to work out.
Later gave up the paper and just did.
Yeah. I worked for him for 2 years, and then the last year I just did both, and then I started the magazine while I was working for him, which he let me do that, and it did quite well. It went all the way up to a 200-page weekly, slick in color.
200 pages a week?
200 pages a week in color. Yeah. Well, I had a staff of, I had other businesses too. I was in real estate, and I had the biggest rental company called Reservies. We did a few million a year in that company. So we had 29 people working for us. And he's like, I'm like Greg Everett. I've got so many corporations.
No, they're all very small. That's right, compared to something like that.
Yeah, well, it got up to $2.5 million a year, so it did work out. Could have been pretty good.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and we're still publishing it,
I know. Coast is out every other week now.
Yeah, we're fortnightly, and we go in, and I'd say 90% of all the motels and campgrounds. And locals always say, Bill, I never see Coast. And I said, well, unless you go spend the night in a motel, you wouldn't see it.
Right.
I said, strictly for tourists, and Alternatives covers the local market in Horry, Georgetown, and Brunswick. We try to cover the 3 counties.
Absolutely. Bill, I hate to say time has blown by, and I wanted to highlight some of the other amazing things you've done, but 25 minutes have disappeared.
Yeah, we always find lots to talk about, Greg, that's for sure.
We sure, of course, love that profile of you as a Veteran of the Week.
Well, thank you.
A couple of years ago,
Sure.
Paul Gable took the time reading about Von Braun and others. That was a real treat. Thanks again for getting in this morning.
Oh, glad to do it. I'm no good in the mornings, but you at least made it afternoon.
It's been a great morning. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Bill Darby coming up next. Think about that, over 50 years in the publishing business in Horry County, often considered very controversial, ups and downs along the way. Still made a lot of great friends in the business and seen a lot of amazing changes in the area. Think about that, 1955, launch and Coast, the experiences therein, and of course even time here before that with the Horry Herald and the other publications in the area, the excitement to see something grow from $16,000 a year to well over six figures a year. It's an amazing process. We didn't get to hear Bill talk about the Strawberry Leaf Forensic Society or being the president of 3 fraternities there at Clemson and the amazing awards that he won over the years, as well as so much more time in the service. It's incredible the differences that can be made in a lifetime. We've seen them in Bill Darby. You'll see them in many others. Tune in to enjoy Alternatives Magazine online at myrtlebeachalternatives.com.